time! Party time! Welcome to Party Time, your one-stop shop for getting involved in the biggest, most exciting social democratic movement in town. Now, lots of you will have campaigned for Labour one way or another before June. It was beautiful, we done good. But there's no rest for the wicked, and there's only one game in town, getting our boy Jay Corbs into Downing Street. To make that happen, we've got to do two things. First, keep doing what we did in May and June. That means knocking on people's doors, chatting to people at bus stops, sharing things on Facebook. This is a permanent general election campaign. And two, get involved in the nitty-gritty of your local Labour Party. This video series is mainly devoted to that second thing. I'm going to try demystify Labour Party structures, explain how you can maximise your voice, and give a little gossip on the way. Juicy. So in this series, you're going to hear about elections, structures, factions, conference, selections, rule changes. It's obviously a lot to look forward to. But for the next 60 seconds, I'm not going to talk about any of that. I'm going to talk about why I think this matters. Having your voice heard in Labour matters because just like in Britain there's a debate about what society should look like, in Labour there's a debate about what the party should do. In the last 2 years, that debate has been over who should lead Labour. You remember the vote of no confidence last summer and the leadership election that followed. JC smashed it! Now the great results in June mean Corbyn's right to lead the party is no longer in question. I'm calling it off. I've changed my mind again. But a debate still rages inside the Labour Party, and the divisions are twofold. On the one hand, this rests on questions of power, whether the party's establishment should have all the power within Labour, or whether its members should. On the other, it's about strategy. That's whether we try and get into government by colluding and compromising with elites, or whether we try beat the Tories by empowering ordinary people to take the establishment head on. It'll be no surprise that I prefer the latter option. Corbyn led Labour to its biggest vote share since 2001 and the biggest increase in vote share since 1945. It was the members who, against the will of Labour's establishment, chose Corbyn. And it was the members who have been proved right. If we want to win the next general election, we need to put the power in the hands of members to choose their representatives throughout the party, not just the leadership. On broader questions of strategy, we need to build on the participatory campaign that saw us jump 15 points in the polls. We need to reach out into every community, get turnout even higher, and elect a new generation of leaders ready to transform Britain. Now that vision seems to be shared by Corbyn. But it's not clear it's shared by the Labour Party bureaucracy or most of its MPs. We also know that groups like Labour First and Progress are already trying to further limit the power of members to effect change within the party. I'll go into more detail about these struggles, the main players and the key arguments in future episodes. But for now, just know that if you want Labour to keep building on the radical, transformative, empowering campaign we all were part of in May and June, you've got to join it and you've got to get your voice heard. So if you haven't already, go to the website and join, and then keep tuning into Party Time to find out what's next. Ciao, comrades. Welcome back to Party Time. It's summertime. You've joined the party, and lucky you, with this card, you can get into all the best parties in town. Of course, I'm talking about your branch and CLP meetings. So with this card, just by joining, you're guaranteed votes in future leadership elections, deputy leadership elections, and elections to the NEC. I'll talk more about both of those in future shows. However, to really influence the party, you're going to have to get involved at a local level. Labour can only be changed from the bottom up. And like a butt without lube, apologies, this episode's going to be a little bit dry. So the most important parts of the Labour Party for activists are CLPs and branches. These are the local units of the Labour Party and are based on electoral boundaries in the UK. Constituency Labour parties map onto parliamentary constituencies, hence the name. And every parliamentary constituency will have a corresponding CLP. As an example, if you live in Hackney and Stoke Newington, your MP is Diane Abbott. Woo! And when you join the Labour Party, you'll automatically become a member of Hackney and Stoke Newington CLP. If you live in Hastings and Rye, your MP is Amber Rudd. And you'll be a member of Hastings and Rye CLP. Most CLPs meet every month. It's at your CLP you'll decide who'll be your candidate at the next general election. It's also at CLP you decide your delegates for Labour Party conference. All Labour members should automatically receive emails about when their CLP meetings are. But if you don't get them, you can email your secretary, whose email can be found on the front of your shiny new membership card. All members are welcome to attend CLP meetings. However, in most CLPs, not all members can vote. That's because most CLPs operate a general committee system. That means that you can only vote if you've been elected as a delegate from your branch. So what's a branch? Each CLP is made up of branches. Again, these are based on electoral boundaries and will map onto wards for council elections. At branch meetings, everyone can vote. Woo, power! Like CLPs, branches will probably meet once a month. However, if you're a busy type and you don't feel you can go every month, there are two particular types of meetings you should make sure you attend. One of those is councillor selection meetings. That's when you decide who will stand as the Labour candidate in upcoming local elections. The other is your AGM. AGMs, or annual general meetings, are where you'll elect your officers to your ward. That includes your secretary, your chair, your treasurer. It's also where you'll elect your delegates to the CLP. Whoever is elected a delegate will have voting rights at the CLP until the next AGM. That's a whole year of power. And with great power comes great responsibility. So that's your CLP and your branch. You know where the party's at. In the next episode, I'm going to explain what happens at CLP and branch meetings. But for now, until then, just check when your next CLP or branch meeting is. Go along, check the vibe, maybe take a friend. It's party time. You're going to go to the branch meeting next week. It's going to be just like this, except there's no pills, there's no booze, there's no music, and no one's having a good time. Today I'm going to talk you through your standard branch meeting. They generally happen every month. Like I said in the last episode, your most important ones are your AGM, your annual general meeting, and your councillor selection meeting, but it's a good idea to go to as many as possible. You should find out about the time, the date and the place for your branch meeting from an email from your branch secretary. Attached to any email advertising a meeting will be an agenda that's like a running order telling you what will happen in that meeting. A meeting will generally start with officer reports. That's when the people with elected positions in your branch, that will be the secretary, the chair, the treasurer, they feed back on what they've been doing since the previous meeting. Then if you're lucky enough to have Labour councillors, you'll get a councillor report. That's when they tell you what they've been doing in the area, what policies the Labour administration, if you've got one, is passing. This could be a good time to ask about any issues you care about in your local area. You might also have an invited speaker. That might be someone who's there to talk and answer some questions about a local issue, maybe housing, or maybe a national campaign that the Labour Party is running. I've said a lot of maybes. That's because branch meetings vary from place to place, whether you sit in a circle, whether there's people at a top table. You'll only really find out once you get there. However, all branch meetings have one thing in common. That's they're a space where any member can propose motions, and then all members who turn up can debate those motions and vote on them. A motion is a proposal put forward by any local member. It could be about Labour Party policy, what you want the national policy to be. It could also be about supporting a campaign, or about local policy, what you think your councillors should be doing. It could also be about internal workings of the Labour Party. So you could pass a motion about how you want your ward or CLP to run differently, or how you think the Labour Party on a national level should change its rules. To get an idea of what a motion looks like, this is an example of one that was recently passed in my branch. A motion will start with a statement of relevant information. It will say this branch notes, and it will be followed by some factual stuff. So in this case, this branch notes. This branch notes the London living wage is £9.75. Workers at the Ritzy Cinema only get £9.10. And workers at the Ritzy Cinema have been striking since 2014 to increase their wage. After the relevant information, there'll be a statement about what your branch believes. This will begin, predictably, this branch believes. In this case, every worker deserves a living wage, and the Labour Party should support any striking workers trying to improve their working conditions. A motion will end with a statement of intent, what your branch plans to do to put its beliefs into action. It will begin, this branch resolves. In this case, that includes donating some money to the strike fund, taking a Labour Party banner down to support their next demo. And because we have Labour councillors, we also have the opportunity to ask the councillors to look into how they can encourage local businesses to pay a decent wage. You'll then debate the motion. You could make some amendments. That's if someone thinks that one sentence should be slightly changed, or if one thing should be taken out of the motion, one thing introduced. And ultimately, this is the really exciting bit, you vote on the motion. If the motion passes, that means it becomes the official policy of your branch. It might put in process whatever you resolve to do. And it might also go up one more layer in the Labour Party to your CLP, where it will be voted on by everyone in your constituency. If you want to propose a motion, you just need to draft one and send it to your secretary a week or two before your next meeting. Though if it's your first meeting, I wouldn't worry about turning up with one. Just vote on other people's. Your meeting will end with any other business. That's when it's your chance to say anything you think members should know before the next meeting. That might be a school fete, it might be a demo, it might be a chill out. So that was your branch meeting. If it sounded a little boring, that's because 9 times out of 10 they are. The main reason to go isn't really for the entertainment value or because they're particularly exciting. It's just to get to know your local Labour Party members, to feel part of that community. When the important meetings come about, you're going to need to know other local members who share your values so you know how you can organise together. It's also a great place to find out about what campaigning's going on in your local area and to meet people to go campaigning with. The most important thing to remember is that you don't have to understand how everything works before you turn up to your branch meeting. Just go, listen, you're free to take a backseat role, or if you want to ask questions, you're welcome to. But if every now and again you drift off, I spend quite a lot of time flicking through my Twitter when I'm at one, that's also totally fine, don't feel embarrassed about that. Ultimately, it's the pub afterwards that's probably the most important part anyway. Enjoy yourself, it's party time. Yeah, I mean, we should definitely nationalise the railways on day one.
Straight. You just pay for it by taxing the rich.
Exactly. I mean, people like Richard Branson, they've just been screwing us over for way too long and getting away with it.
Hombre!
Oh, hey, Neil.
Hi.
How's it going?
Feeling relaxed, actually. Yeah, relaxed about the rich getting super rich.
Who invited that guy? Unfortunately, in this case, his members selected him. When Corbyn's PM, he'll need a bunch of talented and committed MPs to push through his socialist programme. Here's how to give Corbyn the team he needs. The National Executive Committee decides when the selection process starts. In target constituencies, that's happening right now. From then on, it's a local process. This is how it works. Your CLP will have a special meeting to elect members to a selection committee. This committee will interview and shortlist potential candidates to stand to be your MP. It's important good left-wing activists are selected to these panels. So your first action is turn up to your selection committee election meeting and vote for good left-wing activists or stand yourself. As soon as applications to stand to be an MP open, potential candidates can start canvassing for support in your CLP. Candidates will likely be phone banking members, trying to get unions and branches to support their nomination. So your second action is to choose your favoured candidate and offer to support their campaign by phone banking and knocking on doors of local members. A tip, you can often tell the politics of a candidate by what organisations are supporting them. If a candidate's supported by Unite or Momentum, it's likely they're a Corbyn supporter and a left-winger. So the final and most important part of the selection process is the selection meeting. It'll often be called the hustings. Hustings are a special all-members meeting, meaning any member in that constituency can turn up and vote. The final shortlisted candidates will give speeches about why they should be selected. Then you vote. Whoever gets the most votes will be the Labour candidate at the next general election. So your final action, quite simply, find out when that hustings is, turn out, and make sure as many family and friends, neighbours, they all turn out as well. So that's how to select your MP. One last thing, this process was for when there's a vacancy in a constituency. That will mean you either currently have a Tory MP or you have a Labour MP who's planning to resign. If you currently have an incumbent Labour MP who's planning to stand at the next election, there's a completely different process which I'll explain in a future video. This was Party Time and that's how to select your MPs. We really need as many members as possible to understand this process so we don't get any more Neils next time around.
Things can only get better. Can only get better. No, don't change it.